Welcome, episode 9, Cage Cash. There's Ryan. I'm John. We're back with both of us this week for UFC Fight Night, Vittori versus Cannonier. Ryan, how are we doing?
Wow, doing good, John. Glad to be back. The two of us here breaking down another fight card. This is gonna be really exciting. Really glad we're getting back into the action. It's gonna be a long, fun summer of fights. I think we've got like 10, 12 in a row here throughout the summer. So we're really gonna be getting back into it. I hope you guys tune in for a good fun summer of Cage Cash. We're gonna be cashing tickets and looking to make some money. So really excited to get into this card, John.
Yeah, and Ryan, before we hop right in, how about you walk us through? You went solo last week. Some across the industry said it might be a shot against your co-host, but they are wrong. It was actually a collaborative effort. We worked on it together. Ryan came on for the recording, so the haters, quiet down. But
That's right.
Ryan, you might have had your best week of your young capping career as Ryan's MMA picks. Tell us about it.
I mean, it was a good night for me. I'd say it was a tough night to bet on. I think I did a good job of predicting, though. We go through it. Steve Ursig is somebody who really impressed, I think, right, John? Like we watched that fight. We had talked about him a little bit, but David Dvorak, 15th ranked guy, right? Like if when you saw it, like when they're in the ring, it really kind of flashed to me, right? It's like guy coming in with no experience, didn't fight contender series or anything, right? Um, really and really dominated in the second and third round and kind of convincingly won that decision, right? I think 230-27s, which might be a little bit of a weird scorecard, but I thought he won the fight, cashed in with a plus 310 dog. So that was a nice one. Kyle Nelson we had as well. I think Kyle Nelson sucks, but so does fucking Blake Builder. This is what I called out on the pod last week, guys. Like, whereas Steve Ursig, and they literally talked about it on like when Steve Ursig was in the third round. You go back and watch those fights, like Paul Felder or something says it, like there's two types of fighters. The Steve Ursig who like came into the room to talk to the commentators, right, all by himself. Very aware, right, knowledgeable, XYZ, focused on his game. And it's like Builder came in with his posse of however many guys, right? And it's like
He's doing those dance moves at the end of the third. It was infuriating.
it's just like he's garbage, and I'm glad to see Nelson won that. And I think at that price, it was a good way to go. Man, Arichi Lane got knocked the fuck out. That was that hurt a little bit. Otherwise, I think it would have been the DraftKings lineups would have been real nice. Jesuda Vicious, surprised as well. We cashed that one. She was a nice big 2-1 dog. Maverick just didn't look good, and Jesuda Vicious put that wrestling in and got it done. Imavov and Curtis Curtis just can't catch a break, John. I mean, he was losing that fight, so I guess he kind of did, But
that was a vicious cut.
that did not look good, and like that was a weird kind of 5 minutes there of deciding whether or not they were going to go back into it. But then the power bar got it done. Eric Anders looked bad. Remind me to fade Eric Anders. Like I don't know. I was kind of I'm always he can implement the wrestling. He's well rounded, good athlete. I don't know that Mark Andrew Barrow is that good either. So I don't love that one. Danny Ige, my most confident pick on the card last week, guys. Cash easily. Landwehr got toasted in all honesty across 3 rounds. So that was good to see. I think Danny Ige is a really good fighter, and I think I really hope he can get that climb to the top and see what he can do before he kind of ages out, because he's getting up there just a little bit. But we'll see. Mike Mallet, dude. John? What are your thoughts on Mike Mallet? Mike Malott.
I was riding with I read up with John Kelly, one of our favorite DFS guys, and he was big on Fugit.
Fugit. I know, dude. Fugit looked horrible.
No, he did. Little did I know. I mean, the play was you take the all Canadian lineup and you go from there, you would have been in great shape. But I got
Guys, I don't know. That's on me for not pointing that out last week. That would have been an easy one. Saw a couple of those parlays, 6-0 that went. But yeah, Fuga was just a step behind, and Mallet, man, that finishing sequence was nice. I'm sure everyone's kind of seen the videos and stuff, but really cool. Moving on to the co-main, the main event, because the main event wasn't all that entertaining. But man, I was hurt in the pocketbook, but I was excited to see Charles get the job done, and I think I think if he lost, it's like it could have been it,
I agree.
because it's like he drops back to 5+ in the rank, and that maybe not right, but like kind of outside looking in, and
Yep.
like now he's title shot or next title eliminator. I think.
Mhm.
What do you think, John?
Yeah, I mean, I think we had a big crew over here watching that, and I mean, it was cool. You see Oliveira, and me and you had talked about maybe had he kind of gone through what a lot of fighters go through. You have that kind of top of the mountain success. Where's the motivation coming from? He comes out bawling his eyes out, listening to like emotional Brazilian music, steps in the octagon, turns it off, gets the quick win, and then he's crying again. And it's just that's a guy. I agreed with you. I saw him coming out. I thought that might be it if he lost. It seemed like it just he was really going into it with something to prove. But I mean, Benil, I agreed with you. I thought he was the guy to bet on coming in, and I'm sure he'll kind of make another charge up the rankings. But it just seemed like Oliveira,
Old too, though, man. That was his. He just looked a step. He never. It didn't seem like he ever fully got into it.
yeah,
Um, looked a little tense in there in the first rounder. And it was just kind of like got caught and quickly.
yeah, and Oliveira, yeah, he once you're caught, he's gonna finish. Like he's not.
Right, right. I don't know. We haven't seen Benil kind of like rock by that big level experience, and he's been some main events before, but I don't know. He just didn't look great kind of coming in first couple rounds of those fight. And then we had Nunez on down, and that fight kind of
Oh my
sucked too.
goodness,
Nunez won. And then she retired, and it was kind of weird.
can punch Arena.
What did you think? Did you see any of the videos of Juliana Pena? Like
Oh, going crazy.
Oh my God. It was like, it's just disgusting. I'm just like,
I
I,
mean, no,
I hope
no.
I hope they both just go away from, well, I guess, I don't know. But I think people can beat Pena, so I don't think she's going to like
Yeah,
come.
exactly. I mean, I think she was soaking up the spotlight, trying to kind of go the heel route. But I mean, it's kind of just a ridiculous, in my opinion, how she's doing it. But I mean, it was really cool. Nunez, kind of interesting. She went off at the same amount of defenses as Silva. Um, I mean, obviously could have kept pushing it, maybe past him, but I think that's the maybe
Yeah.
respect to
I
the.
mean, credit where credit's due. The goat
Yep.
to women's MMA. There's
No,
no doubt.
exactly. Well, all right. Well, Ryan had a big week. We're gonna get back into it this week with fight night, and one of us, I think it's gonna be me, is gonna have a perfect week of bets.
Talk that, buddy. I
Give me the
am
link.
coming. We're gonna be disagreeing on a lot of picks this week. I can feel it. So let's get into it, John.
Certainly possible. All right. First off, we got light heavyweight battle. Zach Pauga, Modestus Bukauskas. Bukauskas, the Baltic Gladiator, great nickname, coming in 14-5. This is his fourth fight in the last 7 months. He's been active in the octagon. He's 29 years old. And then he's going up against Zach Pauga, the Ripper, 6-1, all those fights since 2020. So while he's a little bit older of a fighter, he's fresh in there. And he is 35 years old and fighting out of Elevation Fight Team in Colorado. This one's a tough one. Initially, I I really liked Bukauskas. I think for his size, what he's able to do on the feet is really impressive. He's got a pretty mixed bag of strikes and spins, and he can really keep an opponent honest in there. And in his last fight, Who was that up against? He was going up against Pedro. Yeah, Tyson Pedro, who was at home in Australia and was the favorite, I think 2-1 going into that fight. Bukauskas made him kind of look silly and just kept him at bay the whole time. But Paga, he's kind of a weird fighter. I don't love his striking. It's very kind of swing and miss type stuff. He lets it rip. A lot of high overhands, a lot of kind of out of control hooks. But once he gets you into the clinch or against the cage, he is a problem. I was looking back at some of his past fights, and he can really deal damage in there. Overall, I think I like the Baltic Gladiator, but Ryan, what are you seeing here?
Yeah, John, I mean, that's a pretty good breakdown. I mean, I think it's a closer fight than the line suggests, right?
Yeah.
Let's take a look at where it is right now. Man, you're almost getting 2-1 on, well, I should say, Modestas Bukauskas at a 2-1 favorite here. It's an interesting fight, and I think the line it should be closer. I think you described it well. Bukauskas is probably a bit more athletic guy. He's going to be, a bigger just man in the octagon, right? Is going to have a bit more of the size advantage, maybe a little bit crisper in terms of the striking. And I think power wise, they're about even. I don't think either of these guys have really significant knockout power. I think the overs are pretty juice in this fight, and I think that's right. I think it's likely a decision type of fight. I think one of them could get caught, right? But knowing it's a decision kind of fight, I don't think we go back to the last fight, right, that Zach Pauga had. He just held him up against the fence for 3 rounds. It's a fucking boring ass fight, but he got the job done. I think Bukauskas is the exact type of fighter who gets caught up against the fence and kind of stifled in his own offense. I don't rate him that highly, just as a guy and as a -200 favorite. Not super interested in it. So I'm going to take Pauga in the matchup here. I think he can get the job done. I think I have a small little play on Pauga by decision. I think I got it like +300, but it'll be interesting to see if the line goes any further. I don't really think it will. I think that like -200 will be a pretty firm line. But yeah, Bukauskas, was out of the UFC for a while, and is because he lost a bunch of fights and came in and just worked Tyson Pedro, but Tyson Pedro just gassed out for the last 2 rounds too, and that wasn't that exciting either. So
All right, so you're going Pauga by decision. I'm gonna go Bukauskas by knockout. I agree, it's a riskier play. Don't exactly love the power, but I think his fighting style is pretty unique, especially for light heavyweights. And Pauga, if he's not able to kind of get it right into that clinch or get it against the cage and kind of save his energy, I think he could be running thin like Pedro did as the fight moves on. And I think Bukauskas is going to be able to land something, especially if Pauga, his striking, I didn't love it. I think he's very much wild, dipping his head, a lot of things like that. So I'm going to say Bukauskas, knee to the head, second round KO.
love that. Let's keep moving.
All right, on to the next fight. And we're going to have all of our picks out on our Twitter page. We're going to keep them and track them for this week so we can see who the winner is. But on to the next fight. We have a bantamweight bout. Dan Argueta versus Ronnie Lawrence. Argueta, the determined. He's 9-1. It's worth noting that both of these guys, their nicknames came straight out of like the UFC video game. Not a lot of originality or creativity, but we got the determined 9-1, former LFA champion, 1-1 in the UFC. He's also a former Ultimate Fighter 29 alum. He's 29 years old. And then Ronnie Lawrence, the Heat, 8-2, 2-1 in the UFC, 0-1 in Bellator, 1-0 in LFA. He's been all around the different circuits. He's 31 years old, and he's coming off an impressive. Oh no, he lost his last fight. So Ryan, I'll toss it over to you. What do you think?
Yeah, John, this is a good fight between, I think two pretty mid-level bantamweights. I think both of these guys are relatively good at what they do, and I think they do similar things well. I think both of them are pretty grappler first. If I had to say, I definitely, on the Lawrence side, we saw him coming into the UFC like 10 takedowns, 10 takedowns, 10 takedowns, and then the last fight he got taken down like 15 times. I remember because I had like it was like the first time I'd ever done prize picks on MMA, and it was like I was early and I'd gotten like Ronnie Lawrence over 1.5 takedowns. He was averaging like 9 per fight or something. And it was like he went 0 for 6 and got taken down 16 times or something. And I was like, God fucking damn it. Hopefully we don't get canceled. I think we're far enough into the algorithm that is that a
You can
thing?
get a
Yeah.
you can get a shadow banned if you keep dropping the F-bomb. No,
Okay.
I think we'll be fine. It's UFC betting, so we're already kind of deep
Well,
diving.
well, yeah, we'll keep it. We'll keep it PG from now on. But I think this is a pretty good fight, but I do like Ronnie Lawrence in this matchup. I think he is a little bit more well-rounded, and I think he has a better chance of implementing the wrestling and controlling from the top here. I've seen Argueta get stuck on the bottom just a bit too much for my liking, and I rate, Lawrence's wrestling high enough that I think if push comes to shove and I think they end up in control positions, more often than not, I think Lawrence wins more of those control positions. I think he's a minus 200 favorite. Not really. So I just like the last fight, I'm not betting on this one, and I don't think it's really something to target, and the props aren't good either. This one's gonna probably go to decision too. But yeah, I like Lawrence to get it done by decision, John. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think you broke it down really well. Both pretty similar fighters. Seems like they both rely on getting on top, not necessarily overly dangerous from the position, but by wrestling and kind of controlling the fight. I think it's worth noting Argueta, he's in his UFC debut, his only loss. He was up a weight class coming in on short notice. I think he's still slightly or underrated due to that loss. And I mean, former LFA champion. I think in a fight where there's not a lot of separation, I'm going to go with him. I think it's good value, and I think the fight or the pick I liked was Argueta by submission. From what I've seen in the past, Lawrence has been a little susceptible to getting caught in bad spots, especially when he's kind of desperate to get to the ground. And I think this is a guy who's going to be able to make something of that. So I probably agree with you. Stay away from it for the most part, especially for DFS or anything like that. But I was seeing it at plus 1200 when I looked the other day. I don't know if it's moved at all, but um, I like
Oh yeah, that's a nice look, John. What's his submission? How much is he submitting, guy? Wow, okay. That's a nice look. I might have to take a look at that because as you said, I don't think it's worth the minus 200 bet on Lawrence to get this done, right? Like you have to be damn sure he's a better wrestler. And I don't
yeah.
know what you've seen that can tell you that. Like I think that's a guess at that point, right? And if on the feet they play out a little bit, and I think as you said, right, I rate the pure grappling a little bit higher on the Argueta side, so that could be an interesting look, John.
All
So
right.
we're gonna be opposite sides of this one as well, it looks like. But
Yeah,
John,
you're
I'm
correct.
gonna go with Dan, the determined Argueta, and I'm gonna have Ronnie the Heat Lawrence getting it done by decision. But let's keep it moving to the next fight.
Yep. Next up, another prelim. We got a flyweight women's fight between Teresa Ronda Bleda and Gabriella Gabby Fernandez. I gotta assume Teresa chose the Ronda nickname strictly based how much she looks like Ronda Rousey in this one picture. But she's coming out of the Czech Republic. She's 6-1 all time. She's coming off a crazy KO loss, spinning back kick. Kind of caught her in the jaw. Then we got Fernandez coming in 8-2 off a loss against Jasmine, that Canadian fighter who won this past weekend. And I think it's a pretty similar fight for her here. I think she's a fighter that really relies on her natural athleticism, her power, her striking ability. And the last time she went out there, how do you say Jaza Devasius? I'm just gonna call her Jasmine. She went in, she controlled the fight for 3 rounds. I mean, I bet on Gabby, and I was pissed because it was 3 rounds of not being able to get off the ground. And I think that's what we're gonna see here. Gabriella has only had 3 months since her last fight, not enough to make any large changes in the grappling department. And then Beleda, she got caught last fight, but traditionally she's just a beast wrestler. And it seems like if she wants to, she's going to just keep this one on the ground for 3 rounds. I think I'd like Fernandez to win, but I don't see there any value on that.
Yeah, John. I mean, that's a really good breakdown. I'd buy some stock in Blada, if it's sold at a low price right now,
Mhm.
because at 21 years old, with some solid wrestling upside, and the striking can only improve because it's not very good, but I I do like her as a pretty big favorite here. I think the only question we don't really know at this point is just like what's her fight IQ, right? Like how does she check out as we keep going in UFC fights, right? I just don't think we've seen enough of her to bet her as a minus 250 favorite. But if she wrestles, it's going to be a justified line. I think, if she wrestles, I think she's a minus 500 favorite, and it's really not close because, as you said, I Fernandez's ground defense is not good,
Yep.
and Jazz Vicious I don't think is as good of a wrestler as Blada, right? So I like Blade on this fight. I think she'll get it done by decision. I don't have much more to add with you. Um, but yeah, man, I mean, I'll be interested to see what Blada does going forward. She's kind of a little bit out of nowhere, so yeah, I like her in this matchup, and I think Fernandez is a good prospect too. So
Had some tough matchups early.
yeah, exactly. I mean, and at 29 too, I don't know. I again, I wouldn't be betting really either side of this fight. If anything, it's a dog or pass situation if it's on the money line for me, right? But I think like an interesting look could be, Blada inside the distance or something, just because if she does wrestle, she's probably going to be in some really right, and Fernandez's grappling is still as bad as it was, right? Like she'll be in some dominant positions to find a finish. So I think that could be an interesting way to approach this.
Agreed. All right, we're on the same side there. I think we're both feeling Blada, either by decision or inside the distance. But let's move on. Next fight, we're going to skip past Jalgas. Unfortunately, once again, our guy canceled fight. We knew
Can't catch a break.
you probably saw it a lot on UFC Twitter, but I mean, everyone knew coming in with 14 fights scheduled. Of course, they were going to withdraw a couple as they always do. So that's a bummer. But we got more good fights to look at. Next, we got a flyweight battle. Carlos Hernandez going up against Denise the Psycho Bondar. Hernandez coming in 8-2 off a loss. He's 29 years old. And Bondar 16-4, also coming off a loss. He opened as the slight underdog, and he's fighting out of Ukraine. Ryan, any initial leans here?
Yeah, John. I mean, man, this prelim isn't all these prelims aren't really betting spots that I'm looking at. But I like Bondar in this matchup, and here, let me tell you why. So Bondar came in last time out against Malcolm Gordon, who is not very good, and he broke his arm within like 90 seconds of the fight, right? He snapped his arm in half, kind of getting taken down, and pushed his arm down into the canvas, and it snapped. You go back and watch his tape though, I rate him pretty highly on the feet overall, and I think that he has a solid defensive grappling game. To me, those are two really big keys against somebody like Carlos Hernandez. Carlos Hernandez is a good offensive grappler. He's a really bad defensive grappler, though. You know, like he will get takedowns and control from the top, but he is easily also getting reversed and taken down himself, right? And I think on the feet he is explosive. But in terms of like technique and pure athleticism, like I don't rate him quite as highly. So I think Bondar has a really good chance to just kind of come in here and give that debut another shot here, right? And I think it's a tough fight, and that's why I wouldn't be betting on it. I think the even odds are about right. It's interesting, the line has flipped in recent days, right? That Bondar has become the favorite here. Sitting at about minus 129 right now, but the odds were much wider when we if we can get him to pull up here. But what are you thinking, John? What do you see in this fight?
Yeah, I mean, I agree for the most part. It's interesting fight. I mean, Hernandez, neither fighter overly active. Obviously, Bondar coming off the injury, but before that, only a handful of fights dating back into 2019. Hernandez kind of similar. He fought early 2023, early 2022, pretty much one fight a year for a while here. So one of the bets I like is just staying away. Like you said, I think it's a pretty tough one to come down with any conclusive read, especially if Bondar coming off such an injury. Who knows what that looks like coming back into the octagon, and especially going up against a grappler who's probably gonna go after your arm. I kind of looked at Hernandez, maybe by submission, but if you look back, although 4 of his 8 wins are by submission, he really hasn't had one since Matt Brown in 2020. So I'm probably going to stick with just a total bet here and go the over one or over 2.5. I see that minus 182. I think that could be a good parlay piece. I think both fighters going to come in maybe a little more reserved, a little more laid back early, feeling it out, especially Bondar. So that's the one I'm looking at, but not too much of a thought either way. I guess I'll go Hernandez just because I don't like a fighter coming off such a big injury. It feels like one of the toughest things to do is to walk back in there. So I'm going to go Hernandez.
All right. Well, we're on we're on opposite sides of another one, but let's keep it moving. One of us is gonna be happy on these prelims, and one of us will be sad. But maybe we can bet against each other so we don't lose money to the
Yeah, exactly.
the books.
Good idea. All right, next up, we got the bantamweights. Kyung,
The blurriest
Perfect.
pic. Is this my computer or is this just the blurriest photo of all time?
It's there. Neither photo. The Kyung Ho Kane looks like the background from like school picture
Yeah,
day.
these are bad, dude. Both of them. Okay, never mind. Sorry, guys.
We got all right. Bantamweights. Kyung Ho Kane, Mr. Perfect, coming in 18-9, 4-1 in his last 5. He opened as the slight underdog and he's fighting out of South Korea. And then we got Christian Quinones, the Problema. He's 18-3, 5 wins in a row. Opened as a slight favorite, minus 175, and he is fighting out of Mexico. It's worth noting here that Problema is over 8 years younger. Could make a major difference here. Ryan, what do you think?
Jimmy Christian Quinones here. Big. I like him. I like him a lot in this matchup. I think he's got a really really big advantage on the feet. I rate him pretty highly on the feet. I rate Kyung Ho Kang pretty low. He doesn't fight all that often. He's 35 years old at this point, almost 36, right? I think he's getting towards the end of his career, and I think I have this entire there. This is a big narrative spot for me. They're talking about doing a like late August Mexico card.
Wow.
Sets up perfectly for a Christian Quinones win. Takes a month off and then gets right back into camp 8 weeks out and fights again on that Mexico City card or something, right? And there's a couple Mexico fighters here that I think that could apply to. I just think you got to think of skill sets and also I think sometimes narrative in the UFC. And I don't know, it's a maybe that's not the right way to think about it, but I think it applies a lot of the time, right? And I think Kyung Ho Kang is on his way down. He the only interesting thing is he struck a lot in his last matchup, and I think if he does that here against Quinones and he
Mhm.
thinks like that's the path to victory, I don't think that's a good
Yeah.
path for him, right? I think if he's smart, he wrestles. But even if he wrestles, I can trust Quinones to reverse position, either dominate from top or get back up and beat him on the feet. So yeah, I like Quinones in this matchup. This is one of my most, as you can tell, this is one of my most confident plays on the card. But what are you thinking on this one, John?
Yeah, I think we're pretty hand in hand finally on this one. I think you look at Quinones, he's got 10 of his 18 wins by KO. I agree with you. I'm sure some UFC capper Twitter tough guys would not respect the fact that you're putting any narrative into it, but at the end of the day, they're setting up these fights for a reason and they have best case outcomes. I would almost guarantee it and what they want to see. I think, like you said, I didn't even think of the Mexico City card, but it does set up perfectly. What do you think? I'm looking at the lines here. So do you think there's value on the plus 310 KO? Or you could go um, KO in the first round as well, which would be plus 750. I think that could be maybe both opportunities. Not a ton of value there, but obviously you're having to bite a pretty big bullet on the straight up money line. So, um,
Yeah,
any,
no, I mean, I think both of those are interesting options. If you want to reduce the price a little bit, you could look at like one of those. It won't be great, but like wins by decision or KO or something, right? But I don't know. I mean, I think this could be a time you pay the money line, right? Especially if it keeps going down. I'm
I know,
some
yeah.
people
What do you think
thought
about
that
that? Down from minus 188 to minus
well,
160.
and it depends on your book, right? But yeah, for sure. FanDuel still got it at minus 186, but as we can see here, the market's definitely moving down towards Kyung Ho Kang. So there might be something we're not seeing at this point. So you might want to check in before you make this wager and just make sure you're informed. But yeah, man, I do like Christian Quinones in this matchup, and as you said, I think that KO line could be interesting to look at because if it plays out on the feet, I think the the power and the touch of Quinones is gonna get him at some point. And coming off that win he had last time out was pretty sick too. So against Khalid Taha, who's a powerful striker, and just quickly kind of established dominance in that first round and put him out. So it was a pretty nice fight.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on. We got two more prelim fights. The first up is a flyweight fight between Jimmy the Brick Flick, 16-6, 4-1 in his last five, but he's coming off a loss to Charles Johnson by KO. He opened as a pretty sizable underdog, plus 190, and he's 32 years old. Then we got Alessandro Nono Costa, 12-3, also coming off a loss. He's fighting out of Brazil, and he is minus 240 opening line. What are you seeing here? Do you think the Brick Flick is in trouble?
He's gonna hurt bad, I think. I don't like the break here at all. I'm shocked this line isn't wider. Honestly, I don't.
Even just the photos is yeah.
Jimmy Flick is a great grappler, but Alessandro Costa is like a Brazilian, like a dude from Brazil who's a Brazilian black belt who is 6 years younger, like,
Yeah.
and rates out highly on the ground. Like, I don't think he's gonna get caught in like some random, flying triangle Jimmy Flick submission, right? And as long as he doesn't get caught in a random submission in the first round, I just I don't know. It's all it's weird. Jimmy Flick was retired for 3 years, suddenly came back, right, and then it got destroyed by Charles Johnson. I don't see why the same thing doesn't happen here, right?
Mm.
So I like Costa as a parlay piece a lot this weekend. I don't have a lot more to add. I think the way I actually bet this fight, because it was, when I was looking at it, it was Costa money line minus 240, the under 2.5 minus 250. I bet the under 2.5, right? Because I think that covers my exposure both ways. Even if in the craziest world, right,
Yeah.
Flick finds a submission or something, right? I think otherwise Flick quits in the next 2 rounds, and it doesn't get there anyway, right? So I took the under 2.5, and then I got a small play on Costa sub at plus 900. I'm gonna
Okay.
look now. Just because, again, like, if it gets to the ground and gets to the later rounds, like, I think that could be. Oh yeah, it's down to plus 500 now. So okay, so that was a nice
Wow.
little look. Because again, like, I think if for whatever reason it gets to the ground and Flick can't finish, it could be an interesting. Costa has his biggest win equity, right, is the submission, I think, right, in terms of finishing
Yeah.
6-0, right? Like, he's definitely, that's his game, and I think people are just remembering a little too much of the sick triangle the brick had at in his heyday, but
Yeah. I
maybe.
think I think I'm once again pretty hand in hand with you here, which might be a scary sign when we're teamed up on the same bet. But I think one thing maybe worth considering, like Costa, not a lot of experience, especially at top competition. I don't think Flick's necessarily the guy to take advantage of that. He's not been around, like Ryan said. He did have that layoff for a while, so. I like Costa here. I don't think there's any reason to get um, too far into it, but I'm definitely going to have him in some lineups. I agree with you. I might. It's probably late for me to look at submission now, but I'll maybe see if there's any fun props or parlays to get him
Or even,
into.
like, I'd be interested. We don't have to go through too much, but I think something to look at could be like a late round submission prop, right? Like, because I think if this fight gets extended, Flick's vulnerable anywhere, and if you can get a good price on like a second or third round submission, like, I think that's a very live outcome. So
Very nice. All right. The next fight, which actually it looks like it's been moved up to the main card. I believe this started as the featured prelim, but moved up. We got Muslim King of Kung Fu Salikov coming in 19-3, 4-1 in his last five. Opened as the heavy minus 200 favorite coming out of Russia, and then you got Nicolas Danish Dynamite Dalby 21-4, 21-4-1 with a no contest in there, or is that a draw in there? He opened as a plus 170 underdog, and he is fighting out of Denmark. Two old fighters, 39 and 38, respectively. It looks like we've had a little bit of line movement here. No, I can't find it on my website. But Ryan, what are you seeing?
Yeah, John. This is a good fight. Two older guys. Muslim Salikov came into the UFC. People rated him pretty highly. He's a really skilled Russian hand-to-hand combat specialist and like striking guy. Uh, kung king of kung fu, right? He has looked okay in his UFC tenure. I think he was a little old when he came in, and his striking to me looks a little bit slow. I don't rate his striking as highly as maybe I would have 6 years ago. It's just like the age has caught up to him a little bit, it looks like. But man, Dalby in his last fight out looked fast and quick. I liked what I saw from him. He looked dangerous. As a big underdog here, I'm willing to take the shot. I don't. Again, this isn't a go bet it fight for me. Um, but yeah, I like Dalby to be able to kind of get the job done. I think if he can stay. Well, actually, no. I think he's got to pressure a little bit, get inside of him because it's Salkov can't deal with too much pressure, and if he has to get in a firefight, I just don't think his speed is there anymore, right? And I think Dalby still has a little bit more of that speed and a little bit more of that chin. So I like the Dalby Danish Dynamite side in this one, John. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it pretty spot on. I'm struggling. I can't find best fight odds. Can't find anything for this one. But as you talked, I was thinking about maybe an over here. You look at it. Um, Salikov he did get a finish in his last fight.
I'm seeing over 2.5 at minus 170, minus
Okay.
160, best price available on DraftKings.
Okay, so I might look at that as another maybe over parlay piece with the minus 180 I threw out earlier. But if you look at it, he's got he got a spinning back kick in his last fight, late in the third round. Before that, neither of them have had many finishes. Uh, they've had some trouble, but they most of their fights have all gone to decision for the last few years. With the both of them. And like you said, I mean, you click on Salikov's photo, he's black and white in his profile photo. That's never a good sign. It might mean the fight game's passing you by. But
Oh my.
yeah, that looks like it's straight off like like a newspaper from 1920. But probably not the strongest reason. I think I'm gonna stay away from this one. I think you're right. If you're gonna touch one of them, it'd be the Danish Dynamite because I'm just not seeing a lot to support such a high number behind Salikov. Like I said, I like the over. Maybe if you like Salikov, look to him by decision. I think it's a fight where I'd be surprised if there's a finish. All right, let's keep it moving. Next up, another main card fight. We got lightweights going at it. We got Nicolas Iron Mota, 4-1 in his last five. He's 13-4. Open as a slight underdog, fighting from Brazil, and he's 30 years old. And he's going up against Manuel El Loco Torres. He's won his last four fights. He's 13-2 overall. Another, I'm sure that's who you're talking about, Ryan, another strong Mexican fighter on the card, and he's coming in just over 2 years younger. What are you seeing? Are you seeing another setup here for a possible Mexican rise to higher rankings?
Yeah, man. I think that's option A if I'm the UFC fight making and marketing team, right? But I think
Script.
there's a little bit closer fight than the last one in my eyes. It's a pretty similar line, maybe a little bit tighter, but I think it's a bit closer fight. The reason I say that, I think Manuel Torres rates out really highly in the first round to round and a half, but he burns so hot that he dies, or he will die if he doesn't find the finish. And I think, we've seen Nicholas Iron Mota, right? Like you don't get the nickname Iron if you can't take a punch and endure a little bit to be in there. So I that's my worry here. Honestly, I rate the skills better from Torres on the feet and on the ground. Honestly, I think he might be a little bit better everywhere, but I don't know that he paces himself well enough to implement that well, right? And I think if he doesn't find that finish quickly, he could be in trouble here. So again, not a fight I'm putting a lot of money on from a betting perspective. I do like Torres. Again, I think it sets up well from that narrative perspective too. Just to there are a lot of Mexican fighters, but there aren't that many male Mexican fighters who they can like build a brand around in these places too. So like in my mind, this is a perfect setup card. Very low, very low exposure, and then bang. Or if they lose, they lose. But I think I think they do have a way they'd like these things to go, whether people want to admit that or not.
Yeah, I think you made a lot of good points. I'm kind of struggling on this fight. Neither fighter, you look at Moda, fought 8 months ago, got a KO victory, but then he's coming off before that a KO loss to Jim Miller, which isn't overly inspiring. And then before that, not a super active fighter. Within his last five, you're going back all the way to 2020, 2019. And for such a young fighter, you probably like to see him a little more active, especially against top competition. Kind of similar with Torres, honestly. I mean, he hasn't fought in over a year. He is coming off the 4-fight win streak, but that's going back to Triple R promotion, UWC. I mean, he's pretty inexperienced in terms of that. I think you're right. The line's moved a little bit towards Torres. I think it shows you're kind of on the light or the right line of thinking here. But I don't hate a Moda KO here. I think that's the route. Is for Torres maybe to get gassed out early, slip up. I think he's got the ability to probably put up some better scoring rounds than Moda as well. But Moda is clear that he's got that KO power. I think I'd probably stay away from this one largely. I might sprinkle Moda just to have some fun when I'm watching it.
I like that, but at this
What do
difference
we
in
got?
price, I wouldn't be plus
Oh wow,
200. And
that's crazy.
it's a plus 150 money line. So at that point, I just be betting the money line,
No,
right?
I agree completely. I'm shocked it's
That's
well,
pretty that's
I
tight. But
guess that
that
means
also shows you, right? Like they rate his
yeah.
win equity by KO pretty damn highly, like if it's that tight of a line. So
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I mean, it doesn't feel great. Torres, no losses by KO. He's only shortcomings have been by submission so far, but it's pretty clear Mota is not going to be the one to exploit that. So I agree with you. I think Torres takes it and maybe sets up another good fight for Mexico City. But let's move on. Got a few fights left here. Right here we have all right, we are back. Apologies for some quick technical difficulties, but we're going to continue on the main card with an exciting featherweight matchup. Pat Sabatini coming in 17-4. Yet another fighter that's coming off a loss here. However, he is opened at a minus 185 favorite at 32 years old, going up against Lucas Almeida. 14-1, 4-1 in his last five. That only loss coming in the contender series against Daniel Zellhuber, who's still undefeated. He opened as the slight underdog. Ryan, who do you like in this fight?
yeah, John. I mean, this is a good fight. Two 32-year-olds battling here. Pretty damn similar in age, almost 2 months apart. But it's going to be a good fight. Both of them good grapplers. Pat Sabatini definitely the better submission grappler and wrestler here. I'd say Almeida may be a little bit more knockout potential and power on the feet. But I think Sabatini is the justified favorite. My big question still for Almeida is the level of competition. I don't think he's fought anybody overly high level. The you see a 14-1 that looks good, but the one loss being to Daniel Zellhuber, I don't like that. I think Pat Sabatini is, a very high level grappler. I've seen that, across multiple UFC fights at this point, and so I think he's a warranted favorite. Again, am I betting his money line? Probably not. I didn't. It's not a fight I've attacked even from the prop market either. But as a parlay piece, I think he's interesting. But yeah, Almeida definitely has a shot. I wouldn't lock it in the bag. I think he has a shot to either keep the fight standing and work in kind of the power and get Sabatini out of there, or we've seen Sabatini get caught on the ground sometimes and in vulnerable positions from submissions, right? So I think both of those are possible outcomes, but I definitely think the money line's pretty justified. What are you seeing, John?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's another fight. If you look at the lines, that Vegas clearly kind of sees two primary paths to victory. You're seeing Almeida already an underdog, coming in at plus, where is it? He is, I believe, plus 350 by KO. So another one where there's pretty much saying his best route is a KO. Then Sabatini, he's plus 250 by submission. So you're seeing that Vegas certainly thinks those are the two paths. And then an interesting part of it is that it's favored to go under 2.5.
Oh, what's this line? Oh, bet
Is
it. Bet it now.
that
Almeida by
submission?
submission plus
I,
1900.
I don't know where
I
that,
want
does it say where that line's from? I'm seeing,
bet on. It's that bet online.
okay, BetMGM, it looks like, has that at plus 600. So if those numbers are right on best fight odds, I mean, you're getting crazy value on Bet Online.
I mean, some of the other ones have a high. I don't think it's a that highly likely of an outcome, but like,
No, but at that number,
I mean, but DraftKings has it at plus 600.
yeah. So I feel like that might be one you just gotta put something on just to,
Gotta play. Gotta play if the number's still there when you watch the video. So it's a must play.
yeah. But I mean, I agree with you. I think it's interesting. Almeida, no decision victories uh in his entire career at 14-1.
That's an even better reason to bet it.
Yeah, like you said, he's not gone up against crazy competition. But I mean that
Man,
just
John,
shows
I think I'm gonna have to jump on it right now while you keep talking. I'm gonna have to
right.
check that line's still there.
Yeah, so I mean I think I like Vegas's thought that this is a fight that's could just be kind of all over the place early, and someone comes up with either on Almeida's side a something on the feet before Sabatini's able to get it to the ground, or like Ryan said, if Sabatini's a little over aggressive, Almeida can take advantage and maybe pull off the upset here. I agree though. I think there's a fight that I'm probably just gonna stay away from. I don't like laying the number on Sabatini. I don't think he's been impressive enough or consistent enough to kind of make that feel like a good bet. And then there's better underdogs at similar numbers than Almeida. So I'm gonna stay away, and I think the whole Cage Cash army is gonna be riding that plus 1,600 number.
Plus 1900. I just put it 10 for 190. Just put it down on Bet Online. So we I think that's a good number. And I think, yeah, let's ride Lucas Almeida this weekend. I think you brought up a good point, John. It's about picking your spots in UFC, especially on these cards, right? Like a lot of these fights are lined similarly, but as we go through these fights, you really got to think of what you're confident in and where you want to lay money, especially on favorites, right? And again, I just don't think this is a warranted. It might be a warranted price, but when you have some kind of value coming back the other way, like you do on Almeida here, I'm more likely to take a look at that. But let's keep it moving. Let's finish this up.
All right, 3 fights left. Here's one of my favorites of the card. We got CLD, Christian Leroy Duncan coming off an impressive KO victory at home. He's opening up as the -155 favorite. He's from England, and he is 27 years old, going up against Armen Superman Petrosian, 7-2, two guys with pretty limited, at least professional records. I believe Leroy Duncan does have a pretty extensive amateur background, but Superman coming in 3-2 in his last five, open +130. He's fighting out of Armenia, and he is the older fighter coming in at about 32 and a half years old. Ryan, what are you thinking here? It looks like initially lines moved slightly towards Leroy Duncan. Looked like throughout the week it was kind of moving slowly up, took a little bit of a dive back down. But the numbers certainly moving in his direction. Do you think he's kind of
It isn't. It isn't, John. I mean, yeah, no, but you're right. I mean, I got him. I actually bet him earlier in the week at -160, and I thought I was getting a good price, and it was going to move in my favor, and it really hasn't done that. It
yeah.
stayed pretty consistent. And that's fair. I think it's a pretty competitive, striking match more often than not. But man, I think CLD has more paths to victory here. I think he has the wrestling, the grappling upside, like bar none. I think Armen Petrosian's takedown defense and grappling defense is some of the worst we've seen at like
Mm.
the UFC level. He gets taken down and controlled pretty easily. So, I we didn't really get to see a true debut from Duncan last time out. He was fighting Dusko, right? And quickly Dusko got injured. So, but I mean, he looked good there at the start of that fight. I think he's going to come in here, look to kind of keep range a little bit here, and I think if he feels too pressured on the feet, he'll just start to implement that wrestling and get the job done. So this is again with Quinones, this is one of my really favorite plays on the card, and I think CLD can get the job done this weekend, John. So I think it's probably a decision more likely than not. That's the way I'm going to go. But yeah, I like CLD by decision.
Yeah, I think I agree. I'm also excited seeing Leroy Duncan kind of get another uh, debut opportunity in one of what I think is probably one of the more exciting fights of the card. I was looking at the decision as well. I think this is one where, like you said, I mean, Armin's only path here is KO. If you look at his past fights, that's been really his go-to method of victory. And if he lands something early, or if Leroy Duncan's just not wanting to risk anything, kind of keep moving up without much drama, I think his best path is taking it to the ground and just kind of controlling from there. I'm seeing the number at +300, some +340, some go down to +250. So if you can get that +340 number on decision, I like that a lot. But as this number stays around -165, is what I'm seeing it at right now, just on the money line, I think he's a really good parlay piece. And
Mm,
probably DraftKings as well. I like him in DraftKings, especially if he just relies on the takedowns and the control.
for sure.
But I think we're pretty hand in hand there yet again. So now we have two more fights. Moving on to the co-main event, we have the highest
Two weak,
priced
kind of two
fighter.
kind of weak top of the card, if I'm being honest.
It's kind of it's a weak card
It is
throughout,
a weak card.
but like Ryan said, we got about 12 straight weeks of UFC. Cage Cash is going to be here for every one of them. We're going to break down the ugly cards and the good cards. So let's keep it moving. We have the highest price fighter in DraftKings daily fantasy history.
Wait, what's he at?
9,900, I believe.
No way.
Uh, Highest
99. Wow, I didn't
ever.
know that.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's pretty interesting. So we got Arman,
try that.
a Hall, Wait, a Hall Laquettes? A Hall Laquettes?
I've never even heard that before.
Hopefully that's not any. Uh, uh
Hall Claquettes.
yeah. We're gonna leave that one be. Going up against Joaquim Neto BJJ. So that nickname is rough. But Armand
It's a
coming in.
terrible fucking nickname.
Yeah. I I would like to say Armand's isn't a great nickname either, being that it's longer than.
Well, let's look up. We got okay. You break down this fight.
All
I'm
right.
gonna look up what this means.
Yeah, there might be some sort of Armenian meaning behind it that I'm offending at the moment, but let's hope not. 19-3, 4-1 in his last five. He started out at minus 1,000, which for a co-main event is insane. Like I said, fighting out of Armenia or fighting from Armenia out of Russia. 26 years old, almost 27. And then you got Joaquim Neto BJJ. That's terrible. But 12-3, he is 2-3 in his last five. Open at plus 650. He's fighting out of Brazil, and he's almost just over 34 years old. I mean, I think this is one of those fights, as you can tell by the DraftKings numbers, you can tell by the opening line. You would think that the outcome is all but determined. I think I was reading our guy John Kelly. He gave some good advice. He just thinks this is a fight to stay away from, especially in daily fantasy. Just you're not getting much value on such a high price, and there might be a lot of guys on silver too, betting on kind of the upset in such a high spot. But yeah, I mean, this is a fight that seems like in a good card is a blowout fight early in the card that you can go eat dinner during or something. But for this one, it's going to be right at the top. So, Ryan, do you see any any path to victory for Mr. Neto BJJ? And also, what did you find? Any answers on the nickname?
It's the town. I think it's a
That's where he's from.
Akhalakaki. Akhalkalaki is a town in Georgia's southern region of Samshki Javechki and the administrative center of the Akhalaki municipality. Akhalaki lies on the edge of the Javaketi Plateau.
But he's not from Georgia.
What do you mean? Oh no, but the city is located about 18 miles from the border with Armenia.
Okay.
The town's recorded history goes back to the 11th century. Oh wait, as interesting. This could be an interest. As of the 2014 Georgian census, the town had a population of 8,295 with 93.8% Armenian majority.
Wow.
Maybe a little Borderlands crisis, and he uses the name to push for the independence of Akalaki.
Well, if anyone's interested in the
It was founded by Bagrat VI of Georgia in 1064. So
if anyone's interested in the Cage Cash geopolitical hour, we might be coming back at you with it sometime soon. But for today, we're gonna stick with the fighting. Ryan, does Silva have any path here, or is it an easy victory?
no, I thought I already answered that. Absolutely not. No, Armin Strickland is going to win and win pretty easily. I don't understand why this fight's happening exactly. Yeah, I guess Armin Strickland gets a win. Joaquim Silva gets the exposure that I guess is good for his career. He's never going to get fight this again, but I think he's going to lose pretty quickly. Don't think there's value anywhere here. I'd stay away, and I think that was pretty good advice from a DFS perspective as well. He's going to be overowned. I'd stay away because at 9,900, that literally means he needs to knock him out in the first, minute, or after 40 significant strikes, where he needs 12 takedowns and to knock him out in the first round. So no, I'm staying away from that.
Yeah, I mean, I took a quick look at maybe you could find some value on something like submission. That's coming in around plus 335 is the best number. But even that, I mean, Arman hasn't won a fight by submission. He's got 5 all time, but hasn't done it since looks like 2017. So not find much there. I mean, that might push you more in the direction of KO or bust, but even there, you're at minus 120, which just doesn't seem like good value at all. And it might just, for all we know, he pushes him to decision. So stay away. We'll see. Keep your eyes peeled for the post-fight interview. I don't know what DC or Bisping are going to do if he starts talking Georgian immigration crises, but I'm sure DC will roll with it and say something dumb. So you can always count on DC to be on his toes. So we're going to move on to the main event. A very good fight, very exciting fight, stuck amongst a lot of garbage. But we got Marvin Vittori, the Italian Dream, coming in 3-2 in his last 5. He's opening as a slight favorite. I'm interested, Ryan, to hear where this line has moved, especially with what a lot of analysis I've seen. But obviously, he's fighting out of Italy. He's only 29 years old, which is crazy because it feels like Vittori's been around forever now. He's just, at least in my fandom, it seems like he's been a staple of this middleweight division. And then you got Jared Killa Gorilla Cannonier. He's a guy I've taken Ryan down with in UFC 4 a good number of times. He's a sleeper in that game. He's a little short, but he gets the job done. He's 16-6. He's coming of being Sean Strickland. That's a bummer for nobody. Sean Strickland, bum. But he opened as a slight underdog. He's fighting out of Alaska, but he is coming in nearly 40 years old in this fight. And I mean, UFC, usually the magic numbers coming in. What are we looking at here? You're on mute. You're on mute.
We got a Starvin Marvin gift from South Park. I think Starvin Marvin could be the side here, but if you've never seen this episode of South Park, go back. We'll link it. We'll link it below. Go ahead, John. Sorry.
Okay. I was distracted by the meme. All right, we're losing focus. We got to finish strong for the loyal listeners. All right. So here, my initial gut was Vittori. I like his age. He's coming off a rather unimpressive victory over Roman Dolidze. Before that, obviously, loss against Whitaker, win against Costa, loss against Adesanya. So he's been right at the top of that weight class for so long and has fought and beaten some of the best guys in the division. Cannonier, that win over Strickland, very impressive. Also, the loss to Adesanya, which you can't hold against him. And then 2 wins before that against Gastelum and Brunson. It seems like a lot of UFC Twitter is leaning Cannonier here. It seems like there's not a lot of positive sentiment around the Italian Dream right now. But I don't know if I totally see the reasoning. I think Marvin, younger fighter, is going to kind of bounce back. He got his win, got back on a winning way in his last fight. Wasn't overly impressive, but I think this is in a main event spot, a good spot to kind of reclaim his role as a contender and make a statement against the older fighter. Ryan, what do you think? Who are you
Man,
going with?
I wish I had a different way to go from you there, John. But I agree with everything you said. I love Marvin Vittori in this spot. You know, I just took him, and you can still get him right where I took him. I took him minus 110 just for 1 unit, and even money. I like him here. I think he's the younger guy. He's the has more tools in terms of being able to implement both the volume or the wrestling and grappling. Right. I think if it plays out purely on the feet, that probably favors Cannonier, but you know, to your point, I think Vittori performed pretty low level and still got the job done last time out against Dolidze, right? I think this might give him an opportunity to kind of come back and be a little bit better here. And yeah, man, I think with Pereira going up to light heavyweight, this top of this division is pretty wide open again here. So um, get the thing will be this is Cannonier's last shot, right? Because this is kind of like the Dariush Oliveira situation last time at lightweight, right? Where the winner is probably either close to next in line for a title or next in line for the number one contender fight, right? And if they lose, they're probably on the outside looking into that top crop of guys. So it's going to be a really really interesting fight. But yeah, I think Vettori gets the job done, and Cannonier gets gets a bit of his walking papers, which is sad because Jared Cannonier seems like a really good guy, and I would have liked to see him um, reach the highest peak in the UFC, but I think this was kind of the second shot at it, right after he did get to the belt there, or got to fight for the belt against Adesanya and kind of got dialed on a little bit. But yeah, man, I do like Vettori here. And I think it'll be a good fight though, and I'm curious to see it play out.
Yeah, you think he kind of keeps, it seems like at least for a while in his career, he's been pretty consistently a decision fighter. Does have one rear naked choke back in 2020.
Let's go.
But
I think it's going to decision.
decision.
I don't. I mean, if ultimately it's going to be Vittori. Like if Vittori gets his way, it's like with 150 strikes and 4 takedowns. With like
Yeah.
6 minutes of control time or something. Like late round takedowns and just kind of like voluming over Cannonier. Because I think if it's
Mhm.
just pure striking fight and it's just one for one, I think Cannonier is definitely more heavy handed and maybe a little bit more technical, right? But I think it's hard to imagine him knocking out Vittori just because we haven't seen anybody else do it before. But you never know. I mean, chins go at some point, but I don't know. Marvin Vittori still seems pretty Chad-esque in his chin potential at this point. So I don't know that we've really hit that
Yeah, and if
finally.
Adesanya, Whitaker, Costa, they can't do it, it's hard to believe the 39-year-old Cannonier, even though he's very impressive on his feet, it's hard to believe he'll be the guy to get it done. I mean, I think it's interesting if you do feel strongly, agree with Ryan, you can get a better number on Vittori, like plus 100 for a decision, which I don't hate. A little riskier in a 5-round fight, but gives you a little extra value there. You can grab, interestingly, Cannoneer by TKO. That's all the way down to plus 275. I don't love that. I think that's um, like we've been saying. I think you can get a better number on Cannoneer by decision plus 300. I think taking that extra value there is worth it because I don't see Vittori going out here, but I think we are going to end it there on yet another fight that we agree on. Another winner there. I think we gave out a lot of options throughout. Ryan, any parting words before we get ready for this weekend?
No, guys, thanks for tuning in for another episode of Cage Cast. We got Vittori Cannonier coming up this weekend. Another great 12 fights. Leave a like, leave a comment down below. Let us know any of your thoughts, what you agree, disagree with. Comment your favorite fight down below, what you're looking forward to. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you guys next week. Hoping to do 2 episodes, do a quick recap of these fights, and then give you our breakdowns a little earlier in the week and be able to just keep cashing tickets as a Cage Cast Nation.
Yep, that is exactly right. We appreciate anyone who's been tuning in, week out. We're still looking for our first comment. If you want to get down there, tell us who you're looking forward to. And also, you can swing on over to at Cage Cash Podcast on Twitter. We're going to have all of Ryan's 5 best bets, all of my 5 best bets. And as you heard at the beginning, we were going against each other a lot. So get in there. Tell us who you think has the edge this week, who has the better picks, and we will be back early next week to either gloat or back off in shame if we all put out losers. So hopefully we're in the gloating mood. and hopefully this card is better than it may appear on paper. There's a lot of excitement in there though, so it should be a fun Saturday night. So for Ryan, I'm John. Thanks again for tuning in to Cage Cast episode 9.